So, thank you all for attending. And again, I'm going to be teaching the Dharma. And the process of the Dharma is a little bit more difficult. I always say that, because it is. And no one really teaches it, even though they're Buddhist and they're Rinpoches and Dalai Lamas and all that kind of stuff. They really don't understand Dharma, the full process of it. Yeah. So the main purpose of Dharma is to cleanse, heal, and put an energy of opposite on the spin of the influence of glamours, things that are bad, things that create demonic influences, things that create negativity and illness, suffering, vibrational influences that we're not aware of. And they're part of our consciousness. So it can get into our subconscious. It could become part of our physical makeup, our characteristic. Yeah, we start being attracted toward lower nature kind of music, people, drugs, habits, addictions, clothing, styles, and just styles altogether. That's usually where that hits, is clothing, style, and style. Yeah. How do you see yourself? What is your characteristic? So you get all nerdy and everything because you're going to be a teacher when you grow up, and you got to wear these bow tie weird ass shit, because it goes along with being a teacher, and you got to be a, hobnobby teacher, female, or a librarian, that just, want none, get none, do nothing but just librarian reading, and that's it, because it's the character of the person. And they really have no interest in developing their soul. It's a character. What part are you going to play in this world, in this character, on this play? So we're all kind of caught up in that, and it has a lot of subconscious processes to it, and there's a lot of weird movies out and everything that gives us a sense of what it's like to be a cog in a machine, all of a sudden you get a ticket and it tells you you're a janitor. And that's it. You will live and die a janitor, And there, in truth, there is a lot to that. There's a real reality to that, And you got to kind of adapt to the character, the cards you've been played. You have to adapt. Because life is like that. Life sucks. It's not what you plan. It's what you can get. And how well you're satisfied with it is how happy you are. Whether or not you justify your hate and your ambivalence and your intolerance and all these different things that you build up, simply because you have a strong desire for an alternative character. The one you're playing sucks. And that's the case for a lot of people, a whole lot of people. Yeah. And you really don't know this until you're out there and you're 45, 50 years old. You've been through 2 or 3 jobs. You probably had a wife. You probably had 2 kids, and all this stuff is almost behind you. And you're only 40, 45 years old, And every bit of that is a debt. None of that is an accomplishment. None of that is added to your life. You get married, you have children, you get divorced, that's not an added accomplishment. It becomes a real problem. And it shouldn't be a problem. But relationships they're not loving, They don't share. They don't understand, And people are different. Some people are really bad people, and you want to keep kids away from them. It's a reason to get out of the relationship. So there's an enormous amount of drama, chaotic reality in life when you're trying to find just relationships. And let alone your job. You sign up on a job, and you get in there and they're assholes. And there's no way of going up in this job, just basically down. And you stay at the same place, but you're actually down because a year later you're not any more involved, not doing any better, and that means you actually went down where you could have gone up. Price of things change, which means you're going down. Well, everything else is going up, So you may not want to go down. You may not want that situation, but you can't control the economy. You can't control the circumstances. You can't control what goes on. And that hits our subconscious development, yeah. And it leaves us all, whether we're 10,000 years ago or 500 years ago or 30 years ago, we're in a really terrible state. Life is really fucking hard. Really hard. You know, if you're rich and everything, you know, you got it all thrown at you and everything, but you still got to deal with your psychosis. Yeah, you got to still deal with your boredom and no character building, no development of a human nature, no soul qualities whatsoever. You lost that opportunity because you were born rich. That sucks. Where can we and how can we be born and have this all work together? Very difficult, you know. So that leads us into a whole bunch of other things, you know, leads us in throughout time. It leads us into a process to where, yeah, there is God. There really is. There's an avatar. We have history. We have experiences, but they come and go. We're not aware of yugas. We're not aware that we live for tens of thousands of years in cycles. And we keep reincarnating inside those cycles. So life changed dramatically in those cycles. But we're not aware of it. Not at all. We're aware of it. But subconsciously, we are. And this is all, what I'm trying to talk to you about is the subconscious. You know? What is it that's drawing you? What is it that's affecting you? You know? Are you getting what your subconscious is, your consciousness? Is it getting consciousness? Is it attaining consciousness? Yeah? Or is it staying subconscious with a whole lot of bitter feelings about life in general? Your boyfriend, your girlfriend, how your kid treats you, you know, your expectations on how things were supposed to work out, you know, and whether they're good or they're bad, it's still part of the fact that you don't have much control over it. Yeah? There's not a lot that you have much control over. So your subconscious mind goes into a process of defense, you know, a mechanism, you know, to where it starts to try and figure out ways to make this world make sense, where in history and subconscious, we know God exists. But what if we're in a Kali Yuga? What if we're in a cycle of time to where God doesn't incarnate during that time? You know? It's like God's busy or something. But God's not busy. You know? God is inside of a cycle of time, and God's the Lord of time, and it's not God's time. And when it's God's time, we get a lot of God. And when it's not God's time, we don't get a lot of God. Yeah. So slowly but surely, you're going to realize what it is I'm talking about. You know, God, you know, you miss God so much, you make up God as being a nebulous entity. You know, you got to look at a statue to get anywhere near God. You know, you got to think of a 2,000-year-old historical event, or even Buddha, which was 2,500 years ago. Nothing happened in between. What up? How's that possible? How could we have a dead zone for 2,500 years? We didn't. Yeah? But we didn't know that the Dark Lodge, all the Dark Lodge, is enormously focused upon evil. And it compromises the virtue. It compromises everything inside of a human being. And here we are. We're waiting. You know, we're always waiting for God, because God comes. You know, it's not a crazy thing to think God will reappear, or God has been here before, like Jesus or Krishna or Buddha. But Krishna, 5,000 years ago, we don't have books that we can look at and verify. You know, so it's more of a myth. That goes back into your subconscious. Your subconscious is relating to consciousness. Right now, you're aware, you're conscious, you're alive, you're conscious. You're aware, and you have the opportunity to meet God while you're aware and you're alive. You're conscious. And that's all that this is about. And there's always God. God's always here. It's just a matter of your consciousness, you know. And what keeps us from God, you know? A lot of times, it's false prophets. False prophets who are using strong magical formulas without you knowing it. And they're talking to fallen angels, like Jews, Hebrew, people in the Christian or Messianic, yeah, people even in the Tibetan, in Buddhist realm, in the Bon. They practice ceremonial magic like you can't imagine. They want to move rocks. They want to move people. Harm people, heal people. They include harm. Part of their psychic ability, part of what they develop in their abilities. And you shouldn't, you know, really, you're a Buddhist, you know, you should learn at least from, you know, the previous lives of things that happen in Tibet, you know. You know, like the qualities and characteristics that come from Buddhism. But we have a delusionary mind about the consciousness of other people. Yeah, we delude ourselves. We hear stories, oh, the Dalai Lama says that they're all peaceful and we're all done this and we all done that. Well, we take it for truth. We think, well, why would he lie? He's the freaking Dalai Lama. You know, what benefit would he get to lying to us? You know, and the lying would be, well, we used to kill people. We used to sever their hands. Yeah, if they couldn't give us the money we wanted, their payments on monthly due because they were all slaves in Tibet. Everybody was a slave, an indentured slave, the worst kind. When you're an indentured slave, you, your family, and your relatives owe that person, not the individual who got the loan, not the individual. It's the whole family and it's the future family. Yeah, if your great-great-great-grandfather needed a bag of rice and no one paid it off, you owe 5 times that bag of rice because of interest. And your family is pledged as being no good doers. Bad people, indigents. That's where we get these words. You know, we subject people, make them subjects. Then we subject them to the process of owning them. You know? And how can you say you're the Dalai Lama when just in this very life you owned people? And at the Patala you had people enslaved with their hands inside of wooden things, with their heads inside of a hole. You've seen it in TVs, you know. You've seen people with chains and metal around their wrist, holding them in place so that they can't move their arms anywhere. And quite often they have a stick and another chain around their neck, and their hands are out like that, and they can't move it either way, up, down. Try sleeping that way, and they live that way for the rest of their life. And that's Tibet. I can show you one picture after another. I can show you video, because we went in the 1940s and we took video of Tibet before they started claiming that they're peace-loving people. And they're not. You know, you hear, you don't know you're being lied to. You hear Trump say all the lies, and everybody, while he's talking, they're checking those lies. And it's obvious he's either the stupidest person on planet Earth, never read a thing in his life, doesn't know anything, and he's really not lying, he's just ignorant. Speaks in an ignorant way of ignorant things. He exaggerates because he's ignorant. That's reasoning, yeah? That's our reasoning, because what? We're ignorant. Yeah? We don't believe in lies. Does that make sense? We simply don't believe in lies. First of all, we don't believe in lies. And that's crazy, everything you've ever experienced in your life. It's all based about the fact that lies are going on all the time. Everybody you know, every circumstance you're in, everything you see on news, everything is based on corruption. People not telling the truth. People doing things behind the scene that you don't know is going on. Yeah? They're alluding that they're good people. Priests are alluding that they're saints. 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 Every single priest. You get your subconscious automatically goes, oh, you're a priest, I can trust you. Automatically. Trust beyond belief. You know? And you'll tell them things, oh yeah, I killed a cat. And you're crying, and you never told anybody else, but you gotta confess, you know. And he's back there, you know, you don't know what he's thinking, what he's doing, or what. But does he really care? No, he's gonna tell you 5 Hail Marys, you know. Come back, drink some wine, eat the body of flesh of Jesus Christ, drink his blood, you know. We'll save your sins. Well, that isn't a new thing. Us believing in the Catholic Church, thinking that they can save our sins. They can take away our sins. Now, there's nothing in the Bible that says that. Nothing. It says Jesus the Christ, the Lord himself, is the one who does that. All the rest is false prophets. It's a lie. So if you hear it, you see it, not real. Not really real. We all get colds. We all get accidents and stuff, but spiritual processes that normally are outside the realm of our norm, yeah, usually only happens with the Lord himself, because he's not bound up by those laws of materialism. Not bound up. He's not material, yeah. So resurrection, healing, all kinds of things happens with the Lord, but others have to claim those things, and it doesn't really happen. You see them getting out of wheelchairs. You see them doing things, even faking getting up and living, you know, having been dead. You know, so in your subconscious mind, you can't believe people are lying to you, that they are representatives of the Lord. Therefore, they have the same characteristics, qualities, and abilities of the Lord. You know, and that's so untrue. I mean, it's way big untrue, you know. But what does that do to you? What does it do to you subconsciously? Because it's a lie, folks. It's a lie. So subconsciously, what they're teaching you is for you to go against God. Go against God. They're not telling you the truth. So what's going to instill in you faith, direction, understanding, teachings of any kind? It's not, because they're liars. And the energy they put forth to you isn't going to move you, because it's not the Holy Spirit. It's not the Lord. And then they're going to tell you, oh, Mother Mary, that's the one who's going to bless your ass. And those 12 disciples that turned on Jesus Christ and walked away and left him alone dead, they're going to bless your ass. Where in the Bible really does it say that? Not by Jesus Christ. Not one of them was qualified. Not one of them was an actual disciple. Yeah? So there's a lot of truth in Jesus Christ. But 99% lies and exaggeration and delusions of grandeur in order to get people to believe. Because they didn't believe. So they'd make up fictitious stories that made Jesus look bad. Because there's no way of verifying those things. And those things really didn't happen. But what did happen was the kindness and the ability of communion across the board with any living person. Jesus was able to communicate. Jesus was able to make peaceful relations, calm the person down, send rays into their body, change them, change their characteristic, change their energy, yeah, and heal them. And that included exorcisms and all kinds of things, you know. And it was not something that people recognized or understood as to what was really going on. You'd think, well, there's a massive healing. You know, they go through this. They had to make up, oh, he made all this bread. Oh, he made all this wine. Oh, he walked on water. Because all the things that I did wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough. And the exaggeration of how much they exaggerate, Look today, look at all the false prophets out there that are making people walk and stand up from the dead and, claiming to be the master healers of the planet and all that. And then 7 years later, you find out they all were fakes. They were using microphones and it was all set up and it wasn't true. What does that do to your subconscious self? What does it do to you? So when this goes on for a long period of time, you're actually being set up for the Antichrist, not the coming of the Christ, but the coming of the Antichrist. And there's little, if anything, you could do to discern or discriminate that that's not the Antichrist. Because the things you get said, the things that come to you, anything that comes to you, and your subconscious self, you believe it's God. You believe it. Oh, that's a sign. You believe God is touching everything and moving you through everything and orchestrating everything. There is a subconscious side of ourselves that believes that. Gives us superstition, makes us think that, if I wear this hat, I'm going to win the football game, or we're all going to win. All these things that, make you think, and all it is superstition and delusion and illusion. Yeah. And we do all of it. Everybody does all of it. So this goes on throughout time. This goes on and on and on. I mean, throughout time, it goes on and on and on. The outcome, you get war. You get the instilled consciousness inside of people that their chakras change because their subconscious changes. They're looking for God, and their chakras and everything is aligned to witness God. God was there. They would pick up the rays, the light that comes off God. They would see the difference. They would feel the qualities. All this would make differences inside of them, making peaceful relations between them and the Lord. And then they'd become disciples. Because before that, they were not peaceful. They were very confused. They were lost. Yeah. But the Lord balances both sides that's wearing on people. The process of illusion, that people think that we have to have darkness and light. We have to have both those things or we don't exist. Because you do not understand the real complexity of God. God is whole. God is not separate. God is not, darkness and light that makes up God. That's not true. God is light, period. There is no darkness in God, not even an iota of darkness in God. God is love. God is light. That is it. Yeah? And that means that what we think, if we can separate it, in God, it's not separated at all. It's all whole. It's one. It's whole. Men and women are men and women. They're whole. And God is a divine hermaphrodite. He holds all of that in his body. Everything. Cosmos, people, initiations, the whole of everything. And it's very uniquely different than the average human reality. And yet, when we look at God, so much closeness to the angel, to the process of human form, to the process of human. Yeah? Because humans are incarnations of angels. And whether they're fallen angels or angels in grace, that's totally depends. Yeah, and only the Lord can tell. Only the Lord can make that right. So we get through subconsciousness, we get into a process, and we're being programmed in this process. We're being weakened because there are people who claim to know. They claim to know. Yeah. Oh, I know the past. I know the history. I know the earth was created in such a time. Well, that's because they're prophets. They know because they talk with God and God told them. And this is the way it is. And it's not necessarily that way. There are those in prophet, through the hierarchical reality, in the process of consciousness, in hierarchy. Yeah. And in that process of consciousness, God is so close. God's a geomancer. God's an architect. God's all things, science and sound and color and manifestation of all these things that give us what we can understand. We have consciousness to gain understanding in it. We have a relative way to deal with God. Yeah, but we have to have our rays, we have to have our chakras, we have to have consciousness. We have to have consciousness. Without consciousness, we have subconsciousness, and then all we do is react. All we do is react. And there can't be any God when everything is in a state of subconscious. So when God comes, nobody recognizes God. Yeah? And like in the time between Jesus and now, it's all been the incarnation in Buddhism. Because they're willing to look for an incarnation because they believe in incarnation. Yeah? And if you're going to be furthering and teaching and moving in that direction in a dark, dark time, then you got to go down to the dark area where there are very few students, but there are. Yeah? And they can receive some light because they're already working at certain levels, like in Buddhism, meditation, shamanism, things like that, where they're actually changing their lower conscious into trying to find their consciousness. Yeah, so they're doing meditation, they're doing different things to purify themselves, become less their ego, less their pride. Yeah. So in doing that, you can get through the first 2 initiations. And that's the group, any group in the world who gets through that. But Buddhists are the ones who are strict. Yeah, and they're really strict. They're really strict. If you get into the process where you're studying, it's very strict as to what books you're going to read, how you should read them, what the interpretations are in those, because they understand that there are a lot of people out there that misinterpret and exaggerate certain things that are not meant to have been exaggerated at all. It has to be seen as a whole picture. And has to be seen as a whole picture. It says I moved really good today. Yeah. Great watch. But in hierarchy, they see things in its process of how it works. Yeah, how it works inside of manifestation. And that's through telepathy, energetic expression, and consciousness. So in hierarchy, they're aware of the fact of impurity, and that's where darkness lies. And they're aware of the fact of the subtlety of light, that light does exist. It's located within us, bodhicitta. Yeah. And as we seek that spark of light, it's taking us, which could be very far away, could be hundreds of years or thousands of years, but that very same group is sitting going, we can see there is a life behind this, and it incarnates. And not up to now, but it will. It keeps coming at us, and we see it clearer and clearer, and we're getting the name, and there are very high initiates that are actually having contact with this entity, and like a Sangha or other very high beings in Tibetan Buddhism who in previous lives had relationships with either Buddha or the manifestation of Maitreya, another Buddha. Yeah, so these are very hierarchical beings. And in my lives, throughout the time from Jesus to now, I've only spent my life in that circle, incarnating in and out and doing my best because they're liars. Whether it's the hierarchy or not, they are liars. They are liars. They can't help it. It's inside of a subconscious realm inside of people. And it takes a very long time to get to a point to where you have your chakras so aligned that you don't have any servitude to lower elemental nature. Your consciousness has been cleansed, and you have higher superior consciousness inside yourself. You relate to your soul, and your soul expresses through you. Yeah, and you have no problem because your soul is so different than your impure self, who does impure things to make their soul not incarnate. Yeah. So once you get to a certain point, you're very happy to change so that you will have more soul. But you have to get to a place to where you have subtle influences of the soul coming into you, and you're willing to make the changes it takes to bring that soul into incarnation. Yeah. And these are normal things, whether you're in Tibetan Buddhism or you're hanging out in Florida. We're all human beings. We all are going through this. Every single life, we have our subconsciousness, and we have all these things I'm talking about. We have our soul, and we have God. And God is always here. God is always here. No matter how destitute, how shitty this place is, God is hanging out somewhere. I am hanging out somewhere. You know? And if I haven't got a TV, if I haven't got anything, I got a book. If I haven't got what? I got my mind. I got my consciousness. I got my meditation. I got my imagination. Yeah? And it's very creative. I see all kinds of things that are so exciting and fun. I make music and I do all kinds of things that really does serve my time, my energy. It keeps my chakras going in the right direction. But that's not the same with most people. Yeah? And the incarnation of the avatar has to do with chakras that are manifested at higher levels and inside the crown, inside the brow, inside the throat center and the heart. Yeah? So you, in most cases, you'd never really know that there's someone like that walking around because they're not a banker. They're not a lawyer. You're not going to meet them in a bar. You know, you're not going to meet them in the hospital because they're not a doctor. You know, you're not going to meet them at the ashram because they're not a fake guru. You know, you're gonna walk past them on the street. Yeah, and not recognize a thing, not see a thing. Yeah, because the higher master is relaxed and is living life, the best life you possibly can in that moment. You have the best bag. You have the best shoes or sandals. You have the best clothing. That's who you are. You always have that. Yeah? Because there's always, if it's not you who makes your own clothes, someone will be doing it for you because you trained throughout time to create these techniques and tools and things to make life better. And when the avatar incarnates, the avatar raises life to make life better. Yeah? But not until the time that we can change our consciousness does this really shift. And that's, it has more to do with humanity's constant attack that they're receiving from the Dark Lodge. And we have no idea that that attack is going on. And it has history behind it. Like in Judaism, and in Buddhism or in Hinduism. Yeah, in Hinduism we had Sai Baba, this cycle. We had a guy named Sai Baba. We had a guy named Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. We had many, many of them. Muktananda. We had all these different gurus, and they went all around the world, and they came to America. And after time you find out that they're actually fakes. They're not really gurus. They have a guy from TM who everybody thinks he's a master, but he's not. He's a bookkeeper. He's a bookkeeper that worked in an ashram and went to America knowing that he can copy what he learned in the ashrams that they did because he was a bookkeeper. He could memorize things and he could do things and just memorize, just a good teacher, educator, educating, things like that. But he's conning people because he's Hindi. He looks Hindi. He is Hindi. He says he's a master. Well, guess what? You can't tell whether or not a person's lying or telling you the truth. So now you're in shit. You're in deep shit because you got a liar in front of you. And he's telling you he's a master. And he has the key to enlightenment, the key to consciousness, And all you got to do is pay $99.95. Yeah. Get yourself a special mantra, your own special mantra, And you can't tell anybody what that mantra is. Can't do that, no, because it's special. And you're going to become a master with that mantra. You're going to say it forever, And since no one tells anybody who or what their mantra is, you have no idea whether or not you're all saying the same mantra. Yeah. But if you study, you find out that it's all actually set up in the relationship of the years that the person is born in and the time and place that the person is born in, like astrology. And within that, there is a very specific mantra that you get. And that's it. There's in a high spiritual state, the mantra comes from the guru. He feels it, he senses it, he starts and a couple other little words come into it and they open up your subconscious. Yeah. That's how similar mantras would work. You know? But this isn't the case. This is God and the machine. And you bought into it. And then he says, well, I can make you levitate. I can get it to where you can walk through walls. I can make you so wealthy, you're going to be burning money. It's just, throwing it away. Your fortune of wealth is going to be so great simply because you're in TM. You're going to float through walls. Yeah? You're going to fly. You're going to be a Superman, a superhuman being. Yeah, just keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. Listening to the guru. And what you do is that you sit and you bounce up and down using your legs. Bounce up and down. You get about 3 to 4 inches off the ground. And because you're lying now to yourself, you're flying. Oh yeah, I'm flying. Well, hopping. But I hop a lot. And I can hop far. Like 2 feet. One time I hopped 4 feet. That's almost flying. Imagine, and then they get all crazy. And imagine I must have been anti-gravity, it must have been, floating of the TM, They start making shit up. And that prepares you to be a false teacher. Knowing. Yeah? That process of knowing. The one thing we do know is that we don't know. We do not know. Yeah? And people do lie. People do lie. And most of the time, they really don't mean to lie. They're covering up a subconscious fear that they don't really want to share their personal life with anybody. So they make up something. Yeah, I didn't. But you did. Yeah? And who's going to catch you? It's a little white lie. It's not going to matter. And that's a subconscious process that we ourselves aren't even aware of the fact that if we do these things, that we're actually doing these things. Yeah? And we can just assume on things. We could just, oh, I thought it was that. That isn't what you said, You said it was that, And then we bought into it, and we did it, And now you're going, well, I wasn't really, This is like, uh-oh. Sorry about that. Yeah? Yeah, because that's where we're at. We're in this process where our subconscious reality drives us along. So we've had time through history, enormous time through history, where this subconscious reality takes the best of us. Yeah, because it keeps growing more and more of your solar plex, and it makes you more and more a person who's available for a cult. Yeah, and you don't know that you're, instead of developing your soul, yeah, you're developing certain weaknesses that makes you susceptible to have your soul taken. Yeah, which means, have you start thinking thoughts that it's a good idea to go shoot somebody or go rob a bank or, maybe go to a school, with a machine gun, whatever brings them to that place are these things, these subconscious things. Lack of virtue, lack of us growing, lack of us developing a soul. Something's got to come. Something other than a soul is coming into us, and it's affecting us enormously. And we have no idea that it has to do, here we're all waiting for the coming of God at all times. Every living being is waiting for the coming of God. Even if they don't believe in God, they're waiting for the coming of God because it is a subconscious experience that they have come in contact with God. And they lived in a yuga where they were highly telepathic, they were loving, their bodies were pure, they lived long lives, they ate very healthy and light. Yeah, they lived really long lives in happy, loving conditions between people. And their gifts, their abilities, we look behind and we go, who could have built those temples? The ability of machinery and technology and engineering that goes into that, it's impossible. It must be extraterrestrials or God. God himself must have come here and done this. Lifted up enormous stones and placed them on top of a mountain. How do you get that on top of a mountain? A stone that doesn't exist there at all. And yet a large statue is made out of a stone that comes from hundreds of miles away. And it's on top of a mountain that's nearly a quarter mile high. How's it get up there? Yeah. And our reality, we cannot cope with it. We cannot even think of it. You know? We don't have cranes to do that. You know? What, are we going to wobble it up there slowly but surely, one rock at a time, push, roll, elephants, all kinds of things you can think of, but it really is technique, telepathy, psychicism, yeah, the ability to literally lift objects way beyond your means, yeah, like it says in the Bible, you can move mountains, yeah, you can do shit. It's not about TM, you can levitate, float, shit like that. But look at the past. And all those things that have happened because God was incarnated at the time and God healed you and raised you up and gave you gifts of skills of mastery. Each individual was a master. You imagine that. Every living individual was a master. They didn't buy donuts. Masters don't buy donuts. Masters don't eat donuts. Does that make sense? Yeah? You can tell the difference between a master and a fake. And a lot of people think they know. And when you think you know, you think you're a master. You think you've mastered this world, your life, your circumstance. So far from it. Yeah, because we've just been made ready for the Antichrist. Not ready for God, but ready for the Antichrist. Yeah. So back in the 1600s, there was a guy, all the Jewish people are like going crazy, they missed the Messiah, right? That's not right. That's not good, but they did. And they spend all their time denying. They don't even like to say the name. Yeah, you go to Jerusalem and ask people, what's Jesus' brother's name, what is any teachings of Jesus you might know of, no. They hardly know a period of time. They know nothing, yeah, because they're so distinctly in the process of having denied God at the moment. Literally, this is a very powerful process because they were in the process of being the chosen people that the Messiah will come from. Yeah? And that's an illusion. There's no such thing. The Messiah comes from everywhere, from every walk of life. The Messiah started off as a freaking fish. You really think he's interested in being just a noble incarnation of a specific cultural entity that comes from a specific group of people? Like, any group of people, other than the fact that the Messiah is the incarnation of the time. And then he might incarnate in India, he might incarnate in America, he might incarnate in China, might incarnate in Africa, might incarnate anywhere at any given time. Yeah? And that process is that the Messiah is always here. But in our process, we have expectations of this Messiah, the coming of the Messiah. Yeah? So if you're Hebrew, oh my God, your expectations are overwhelming. And you get to the place to where you actually have specific manifestation power beliefs that you will bring the Messiah into the world by conjuring the Messiah, by using demonic angels, good angels, whatever. Yeah, and they began writing books and beginning enormous changes within Judaism in order to bring about the coming of the Messiah quicker and quicker and quicker. And this is 1600. Yeah, 1600. Before 1600, there were many, many of them who thought that they were close to being the Messiah. They changed many of the Torah, many of the relationships of what was to gain purity within the Hebrew reality, because that was their big thing. They knew they were impure. They knew they were connected to Cain. Yeah? This is a horrible thing. Yeah? You really want to cleanse that up. You know, you don't want to go one way when you're on the other path and you're not sure which one you're on. Well, the difficulty is that they took the wrong one. The wrong path. They lost Jesus. Yeah? Went through that process. Then they start conjuring to create messiahs. So then they start changing the Hebrew Torah and its relationship. And they get to 1666, 666, 1666. And the false Messiah appears. And this is him.
Sabbatai's adherents planned to abolish many ritualistic observances because, according to the Talmud, holy obligations would no longer apply in the Messianic time. Fasting days became days of feasting and rejoicing. Sabbateans, as they called themselves, encouraged and practiced sexual promiscuity, adultery, incest, and religious orgies. Sabbatai Zevi's messianic claims were rejected by the leading rabbis of Jerusalem, as well as the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, who offered to behead him if he didn't convert to Islam, which he immediately did. Sabbatai's formal conversion to Islam really dismayed many of his followers, to say the least, but those who continued to be loyal to the Sabbatean movement took it as a sign to also convert to Islam, while secretly.
All right. Now, get that in your head for a minute. Let that just seep into your head, you know? This is over 1 million Jewish people. And as a religion, these are leaders of the world. Yeah? Jewish spiritual leaders of the world. Yeah? And they are focused on an antichrist. Yeah? Who's telling them they have to practice satanic worship. They must carry out rituals that are against God. They must. And then it explains, because he does all these undivine things. Every undivine thing, and it's literally literal, doing, like sex with your children. That's not with God. Yeah? That's against God. Yeah? But it's in their thing. I'm talking masses of Jewish people live this way, took this, wrote books, lived this way. And now we have the Illuminati. Now we have a group of situations where World Bank, the holders of diamonds, people who own all the diamonds, people who own things like you cannot imagine. What's behind it? You just saw the lady wearing horns. Yeah? And the little ceremonies that go on there. Yeah? That's what happens when you're so rich. You think that you rule the world, and the president is nothing more than a person you elect, not the people. You actually manipulate the people to elect the president. That's how witchy, crafty these people are. Witchy, crafty. Does that make sense? Yeah? Where we have the ability to build pyramids. Yeah? We have the ability to do the things I teach. Temples and healings and everything. But when you go the wrong direction, you have the ability to build soullessness inside of human beings and conquer their souls. Take their souls. Create capitalism under the illusion of the future. It will be communism in the future. Yeah? Check this out. I know this is always fun stuff.
Most people have heard of Jesus Christ, considered the Messiah by Christians, and who lived 2,000 years ago. But very few have ever heard of Sabbatai Zevi, who declared himself the Messiah in 1666. By proclaiming redemption was available through acts of sin, he amassed a following of over 1 million
Now, how many Jews do you think were on earth? I mean, 1666 probably had about 11 billion people on the planet, maybe 5 billion, all planet. And yet there are millions, singularly, in service to the Antichrist. And all these people are committed to carry out sex magic and money magic for the rest of their lives. To carry it out. Yeah? And to carry out ceremonial magic, which would mean that they would call themselves Jews. Call themselves Jews and separate themselves from humanity. Those are not Jews. These are inhumane beings. Not real. Yeah? They're the children of fallen angels. Yeah? They're what's going to be burnt up in hell. Yeah, that's what that is their belief system. So that gives them no conscience of how they treat you. No conscience whatsoever. Because it's all about them. And they won't tell you this shit. They won't tell you this. But it is just plain ass the truth. And it's not about being Jewish. It's about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Millions of people joined this situation. Millions of people began ancestral relationships and homosexual relationships by the millions overnight. And guess what happened? They all became Muslims, not Jews. You just heard it. Overnight, millions of people became Muslims. Millions. Well, there weren't that many Muslims, but then there were. Isn't that interesting? Yeah? And that's so anti-God. So anti everything they've been told, that here they are special and all this stuff, And he was threatened to have his head cut off. But millions of the rest of them decided that they would do it because he was the Messiah. What he does, we do. Yeah? So they all thought that it was a sign. And that's his teaching. So now we're Muslims. So there are all the people, almost every single person that was known as a Jew has done this in their previous lives. But in all truth, I don't want to rattle your brain too much, But in all truth, we reincarnate. And we do not reincarnate in the way that you think you do. If you're a Jew, you don't reincarnate as a Jew. You don't. Yeah. I've got books after books after books where I really believe you all should read. And out of Virginia at the psychology department of the study of reincarnation. Yeah. Psychology department, University of Virginia. Yeah. And they have at least 30 books from the research of people, young children, adults, all these people who go through a process. Yeah, and usually it's hypnosis and past life regression. But it works. Yeah. And some people are very susceptible and open to it, and their past life comes back. And it really shocked an enormous number of people, especially the people who read the books. But the people who went through the experience was that they were in Krakow. They were Jews, and they were in Germany, and they were dying, and they were suffering. And while they're suffering, they're going, "Oh, we have gone through this for so many ages. I am Jew, and I'm so sad. They always do this to me, so all my lives." And that's what they're thinking while this is going on. And it's a horrible thing. I'm not saying anything about that. But what I am saying is that the subconscious mind of thinking is wrong. Is wrong. You're not a Jew. You're no more Jew today than you're going to be after you die. Because when those people sat down and went in and began their process of externalizing their past lives, and they find themselves in Holocaust, but yet they're Presbyterians, Lutherans, little white boys and girls, little black boys and girls, just like Michael Jackson, he ends up as a black boy. You do not have any control over this thing. Do you understand? You think you have knowing. You have no knowing at all. And you need to have knowing. You need to know God exists. You need to know goodness is important. Kindness is superior to all other forms of ways of being. Being kind to yourself, being kind to another person, being kind to animals, being kind to all things. Yeah? Yeah, so it's a very simple world. It's really simple. Yeah? Except that we have this going on. We have a subconscious area, and we have witches and warlocks, and sometimes they disguise themselves as priests and a religion. In reality, it is a cult of black magic. And they're messing with us. They're calling demons onto earth, and they keep reincarnating. Yeah? And they affect us. Lunar lords come out of these people, and they keep coming back. And they honestly believe that they are the superior race. All these, like Trump, he believes that he's the superior race, and that's it. And he's got his little superior son-in-law, you know, who's the king of Jews. I mean, give me a break. Little Herod reincarnated. Yeah, isn't that just great? Little Caesar reincarnated. Isn't that just great? Yeah, and you get to have them in the same home. Yeah, and that's reincarnation, and that's the life we live. We are not wiping these people out. We do not know anything. We have no idea that sex magic and money magic and cruelty to children, these people are by their own ways, by their own needs, their desires, their perversions, they carry these acts out without it being a ceremony, because it's been going on all the way since I just showed you. This is millions of people who chose to begin adultery. Yeah? To begin perversion. Saying it's what we got to do. Yeah? We have to have large mass sex. You know? 8, 10 people. And that's the same thing was going on in Rome. Same thing was going on in other places. You know? So now it's inside the Jews. And they're doing it. With their Messiah telling them to do it. Yeah? Watch the rest of this.
Passionate believers. As I said, about half the world's Jewish population during the 17th century. And although many rabbis at the time considered him a heretic, his fame extended far and wide.
So that's not just them. This is a relationship that goes really deep. Let's see, let me get the rest of this. Go ahead. Just a second, because I want you to see this. It was worth seeing. They have a little bit in here. It talks about the relationship where sex magic comes into it. You saw the pictures where the guy that's killed himself, and Elaine Maxwell and Clinton and all of that, you know, and all of that is an off branch, yeah. And you saw the guy that was in Turkey, you know, that has all these sexy ladies that's been all made up. Did you see that? Yeah, you didn't see that? Oh man, I gotta show this to you because it's crazy. Because what happened was that these demons are being caught right now, and they've never really been caught before. And they're being caught. And this one guy I'm going to show you, put in prison for 1,000 years. Who lives 1,000 years? I mean, he was put in prison. They don't like him at all. I think this is it. Yeah. Let's
according to the Talmud, holy obligations would no longer apply in the Messianic time. Fasting days became days of feasting and rejoicing. Sabbateans, as they called themselves, encouraged and practiced sexual promiscuity, adultery, incest, and religious orgies. Sabbatai Zevi's messianic claims were rejected by the leading rabbis of Jerusalem, as well as the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, who offered to behead him if he didn't convert to Islam. And mystical occult practices, which included religious orgies and sex magic and sacrifice. His followers are known today in Turkey as the dolmen, which translates to religious convert, a derogatory term which they themselves never used. And so the Lorian Kabbalah became a mystical synthesis between pagan or esoteric teachings which preceded the Torah and Gnostic elements of Judaism. Many texts pertaining to the Kabbalah, including the Zohar, say that the task is not to destroy evil, but to return it to its source. To put it simply, to include the left within the right in a Zoroastric metaphor, or to uplift the fallen sparks in the Lorianic one.
So if you look at that, if you read it, it says this cat is from Turkey. I had to go to Turkey for a little visit, and in process, I come to find that I have been from Turkey. Many lives, many lives. I was in Turkey, and I was really happy. You know, I mean, extreme happiness and joy and peace. And so when I was there, I was really having a great time. I didn't leave the airport, you know. I spent all my time in the airport, but nevertheless, I was high on Turkey, you know, and so I knew nothing about Turkey hardly at all. And when I got back, I started looking into it, and I found out that there was an enormous amount of evil in Turkey, and it's sex magic and money magic, and it's an enormous laundering process, you know, for people to launder money or do all kinds of illegal things and get away with it. And Turkey has changed. It flipped itself completely around, and now it's taking out everybody who, I don't care if they were an ex-king or anything, you have nothing that keeps you out of trouble. Yeah, you can go to prison. This guy went for 1,000 years. Prison, you know, him and along with about 20, 30 other people. And right now I'm in process of doing cleansing in Turkey, which I have no interest in doing this shit, you know, but that's what I'm doing. And I'm in a quite a process of investigating, researching, and working with their process of sex magic and money magic. And I'm cleansing the root of evil, money. Yeah. So if this gets worked through and comes out the other side, the devil is really having deep shit happening. You know, because this can't happen. You know, the Lord Jesus Christ cannot have stuff that's happening right now. You know, enormous amounts of funds coming my way. That is not supposed to be happening, which is what's happening. Yeah. So this process is not about Judaism. It's about the subconscious mind that draws us into the devil, the dark lodge, the dark places, that is seducing us. And it goes back to the beginning of time, the fallen of angels and everything. Everybody's being used. And in my process, I'm going to heal that. And you have no idea how it's being done, but it's done through my sciences. Yeah. And I have invocation, evocation, I do my pujas, I do my prayers.
Rabbi Isaac Luria,
they have the opposite.
the Ari, or Aryan lion, and his Lurianic Kabbalah resulted in a grafting of the then current theories of the Kabbalists onto the traditional Jewish view of the role and personality of the Messiah. This new philosophic paradigm, in the estimation of many scholars, provided a spiritual justification for proactive Zionism, and therefore the events that directly brought about the modern formation of Israel, which incidentally did not start in 1948 with the War of Independence, but a century earlier with the German Messianic settlers known as the Temple Society, or Templars, who supported the nationalist German party of the 30s.
Yeah. So what we're seeing is a fulfillment of a large cult reality in layers, whether it be the Zion reality, or the relationship of German and their Aryan reality and their belief systems, and the Templars in relationship to the Germans and the Aryan reality, and the Catholic Church. It's layers, layers upon layers upon layers, and it's all about Christ. And their process is actually making manifest the Antichrist and all the activities inside of humanity that's bringing them further and closer to Muslims, to perversion, to homosexuality. Does that make sense? Yeah? Because we're not really going spiritual, We're not building monasteries or anything like that whatsoever. Yeah? It's like that's the silliest thing you'll ever talk about. It's like talking to some physicist. They'll just go, God? Come on. Let's talk about something that's worthwhile talking about. I mean, that's just fantasy. Yeah? That's how far we are in the knowing. And that knowing comes from the Dark Lodge. The Dark Lodge is lower mind. Lower mind is the process of knowing. When you're in lower mind, you're stuck, your pride, your ego, you're stupid. And stupid is as stupid is. You do as stupid do. You can't change it. If you're an idiot, you're a blithering idiot. You can't change it. You blither. It is your nature. It's the character of an idiot. And if you're stupid, you're going to do stupid things. You're going to say and do stupid things. So we're literally being deadened intellectually by seeking intellect rather than soul, spiritual understanding, things like that. So there's a lot in the process of imagine this 1666 process. The amount of energy that was moved in order to bring about, a lot of people believing, that it was a good idea to, let's all, let's all just, I mean, every perverted act, I can go a list, and it became the thing you should do in order to become spiritual. It was the opposite of, this is a list of things you shouldn't do, So one of those is like, fasting. You should fast, and you should not feast, gluttony. You shouldn't feast too much, and maybe on a certain day you should fast, and maybe on a certain day you should not feast, and other days you think, well, if there's a party or a birthday or something like that, you would feast. But since it's a holy day, none of that comes up. You don't feast, So these are things we do to cleanse. Even though life happens, we choose to do the right thing that allows us to stay spiritual, because we have a spiritual intention, and that's the purpose of the simplicity of the reality that God works in. We're not aware of the fact that God is a highly simple, it attributes everything to the relationship of God's grace, so everything in real truth is based on simplicity, extreme simplicity. So we are not aware of that simplicity because we have this process in our subconscious reality that comes from our previous lives. Like I said, imagine you're Jewish, you're in a Holocaust, and you're really, oh my God, they're after us, and now they're putting stars on us, and now they're dragging us in to be gassed and killed. And now they're persecuting us, and those words keep coming, because we think we know. We think we know, and we don't know. We don't know anything, And a process of our subconscious mind draws us to think those things that we know. Yeah? So everything in healing is a process to invoke into a person certain formulas, yeah, in the process of spirituality. In masters, we do Om, we do mantras, we do invocations of words and intention, yeah, with understanding behind the words. It's not a knowing situation, yeah. It is a faith. It's an intuition behind faith. So when you're moving with kindness, you beget kindness. Yeah? If your heart is full of kindness and you're doing a puja and you're saying something in terms of hoping kindness brings about into humanity, well, if you're not a kind person and you're doing the puja, the outcome will be nothing. Yeah? So your knowing only comes from your consistency. Yeah? And the changes you see in yourself that no longer carry those impurities. And that allows you to know. Only thing you know is that you're developing change that makes you more soulful. And then you get information that tells you about the soul that you are getting. And it takes you away from the dogma of all the cults that are from our past lives. We have no idea that, this 1666, even existed. Most people never even knew the name, never even heard of it. But imagine, over 1 million people went through that process, and they were all Jewish people, and they all went on for hundreds of years believing this bullshit. And they believed in a false Messiah, and they had to carry out anti-God behavior that would bring the Antichrist closer to the world and make them more persecuted in the world, more separate in the world. None of it bringing about any kind of peace or harmony. All of it happening through the reality that comes from us thinking we know. Yeah. So imagine that we have a healing process in process of humanity, and in everything that we do in my work, it starts at the very subtlest area, of consciousness, and that means that consciousness itself is your teacher. Yeah? I can say a lot of things, but unless I am these things, unless I say these things in right temperament with you, and you're there for that reason, it's just, it's like, if it's in another form of teaching, it's dictating to people, and then they have to use memorizing in order to instill knowledge. Yeah? Where in this case, this has to do with many different levels of intuition and aspiration and understanding and cognitive clarity. Yeah? Discernment, discrimination, cognitive clarity. So when I'm expressing and teaching, it has an element behind it you're not even aware of, and that's thought form building. The very words, the things that I say, the things that I'm leading up to, all of that is inside of a larger picture, and it moves me, yeah? And in that, it's not knowing, yeah, but it's understanding. A totally different vibration, and much higher in mind, much higher in capability of being able to sort things out later on in your life, because literally, your consciousness grows. Your consciousness grows, yeah? As long as you're being told the truth, as long as things are, in right elemental order, yeah? So part of, being a master is not just doing invocation, evocations, and doing mantras and things of that nature, but it's mainly the consciousness that is in the master has to be in a place of knowing. Not in the knowing that I know something, but knowing in the relationship of faith, knowing in the relationship of, the sense that people can change, that nothing is God in the machine, nothing is oriented to absolutely this is the way it is, this is your destiny, or anything like that, yeah? There's an essence of another form of knowing that comes from a master, and that's the fifth ray at the brow, and any form of communication that comes out of the master dispels all relationships that bring about ignorance. And ignorance is what allows you to believe someone when they're lying. And it puts you in the situation because you're ignorant. You're more susceptible. You're more pliable. Yeah? And that will allow you to be more attracted to false teachers. Yeah? And it's all sixth ray. It's all solar plex. It has nothing to do with your intellect. It has nothing to do with, the good things you've done in life. It has to do with past life solar plex activity. Yeah? Were you caught up in this guy? Were you caught up in Sai Baba? Did you think Michael Jackson was just Michael Jackson and the pedophile thing that everybody talked about? That can't be. Because you got certain senses that are blocked by your subconscious agreements with false prophets in previous lives. And when you come up to another false prophet and you're trying to get through it, like Michael Jackson or Sai Baba or Bhagwan or all these people that you're in this life dealing with, you have a 90% chance you did not deal with it. You were absolutely, I don't know. Oh yeah, I think he's probably God, he could be the avatar, yeah. Sai Baba, yeah. Michael Jackson, yeah, well, he thinks he's Archangel Michael. Why not? He could be the Messiah. Ask his sister. Yeah, he's the Messiah. Truly. They honestly believe Michael Jackson was the Messiah. But he looked like a freaking vampire. And he was a pedophile. Yeah? He raped little boys and got rid of them by the time they were 15. Because they weren't pretty enough. That they were attractive. Because he's a pedophile. Pedophiles get off on that. They know that that's the most harm you could do to a human being. Is catch them when they're between 11, 12, and 13. Destroy them psychically, destroy them in every possible way, and make them your slaves. Yeah, because they become loyal. Each one of those kids wanted to dress like him, dance like him, mimic him in every possible way. Yeah, because they were fanatics. They were fans. And he took advantage. Imagine taking advantage of fans, let alone 10-year-old fans, 11-year-old fans. Go to their parents' house, talk them into letting them come home with me. Oh yeah, you can come with me. But would it be all right if he sleeps up in my room? We're just going to play around. Yeah, no problem. That shit happened over and over and over and over and over. Yeah? And yet, he never went to jail. Not 1 minute. Yeah? And he did it. Yeah? And you can't tell the difference between a lie. And so much suffering comes from this. Yeah? So many children were never helped because we let this horrible pedophile get away. Now, if we were to caught him and stand up and go, oh, I still love him, but then he's a pedophile, so then I got to get it out. I got to get it out of me. I have to see him as a pedophile. I can't just see him as cute little Michael Jackson singing that Save the World thing. I have to see him taking a little boy from behind and raping him and forcing him over and over and over again. Yeah, or I'm lying to myself. I want to choose the picture of a nice singer with a girl's voice who's lying to me in his voice. Yeah? And lying. It's all about that. You have no idea what effect lying does to you. All the churches lie. All the priests lie. Sai Baba lied. Bhagwan lied. Yeah? Hundreds of thousands of people sold their homes, their cars, left their children to follow these creatures. Yeah? And then they died. And now they're trying to reincarnate and deal with this. And the only way we're going to get through this is if you can clear your consciousness and see the Lord. Because you're looking for the Lord. And it's that looking for the Lord, but not preparing, not cleansing. I talk about, I think you need to fast. It's hard to get that to you because I don't want to be, religious. You know, that you need to fast every Saturday and that this is the way it is and that, I'd rather tell you, it's good for you. And I could show you all kinds of benefits. You can eliminate your cancer. You can eliminate your bowel problems. You can eliminate diabetes. I mean, these are really ongoing problems in the world. Yeah, just follow the simple things that I'm asking you to do. Yeah, fast and eat certain ways. But in reality, I'm telling you, this is the way God designed it. This is religion. It's not the kind of religion you're used to, because that was a cult. This is God's teaching, and I am the Son of God. And I'm not in a position to where I can come up with some other knowledge or some other understanding or, be caught up in the process that everybody else is. Yeah? Because I'm actually designed in a very specific way. Yeah? So that I see what I see and I hear what I hear. And I don't have any past lives that hold me into having fallen for this false Messiah. I was the Messiah. So that frees me from all this false prophets. Does that make sense? Yeah? If you look at my lives, you'll see that everything I did in my life was to protect you. Because they're coming. I'm Christ, and there's an antichrist coming. Yeah? I'm a healer. There's an anti-healer coming. I'm a giver. I save the poor. I feed the hungry. There are people out there to steal from you, left and right, and sell you houses you cannot afford. And destroy the earth. Yeah? But yet your Lord, the one who runs this place, does it in a grace and in a way that everybody is fortunate and everybody gets everything worked out. There's no such thing as all the things that we are going through due to subconscious delusions that pass through us from our past lives. Yeah, like I said, all those people who died in the gas chambers, they came back Presbyterian, Lutheran, black, white, Asian, Buddhist, and maybe Jews. But it wasn't guaranteed, folks. You're not really a Jew. You're not a Muslim. You die when you're a Muslim. I'm going to go to the palace, I'm going to go see all the virgins. Yahoo! I'm a Muslim. You die just like everybody else, and you get a new incarnation, and you built nothing. Built nothing. You're not prepared for your next life. You put everything into a lie. Just like right now, if you put everything into Trump, 10 years from now, you would feel so disgraced. How could I? Who was I? What happened? It's like looking at yourself after you've gotten off drugs and alcohol after a long period of time. It obsesses a person. It takes a person over. This whole thing of knowing. People who follow Trump follow a liar who presents himself as a knower. A knower. And there's no such thing as a knower. Yeah? He's so perfect, he's never even had to go to church and ask for forgiveness because he's perfect. Well, really? Is there any such thing as that? No, but he's a liar. We know he's a liar, and he lies, and there he's lying right there, even to the Pope. He'll lie to the Pope. Yeah? So everything we've got is truth. Our process is truth. And the difference between the Lord and a human being is that the Lord is the incarnation of God's Son. And in that, you have all the energy of the light of God. You don't get darkness. There is no such thing that you need darkness to have anything to do with God. There is no such thing. The belief in God is that there is no darkness at all. And that it is, you shine light on it and you decide not to do it, and darkness goes away. Because you're the creator of the darkness. You're the manifester of the fear. You're the creator of the habit. You're the manifestation of the impurity. Yeah? So it's an easy process in cleansing. And that's what we're doing. Yeah. In this process of building the temple or manifesting tools or sending things out the way I'm doing it, is affecting large masses of people who have this knowing. And it locks their subconscious process. I mean, you could be right here. You could be born a Jew. You could be a Catholic. You could think you're Italian. You might think that you're black. You may think that you're Jewish or whatever, and it's a lie. You're not. You're not. Even to go so far, that, oh, I'm my mom's daughter, or I'm my dad's son. You're not. You are not. At all. We are brothers and sisters. And we are kind enough to give birth to our brothers and sisters so that they can take incarnation. Simple shit, people. It's simple. But if we don't see ourselves as brothers and sisters, we're going to become perverts. Does that make sense? Because at some point in time, you're going to want to own somebody. Because you're lonely and you need this and you got a delusion and you got all your past life bullshit. Imagine, I showed you this, sex magic. In every religion. If you were a Catholic, it's not just about, oh, I was molested by a priest, yeah, or a nun, yeah. But no, it's really perverted inside there. They orient you toward homosexuality. They orient you. If you can become a priest that is a pervert, and you allow a priest to have sex with you, you pass the first test to becoming a priest. That's how you get to be chosen, is that you have to allow them to rape you and accept that as an acceptable situation. And then you go into the priesthood. And you don't have that big of a conflict with the reality that all the priests are gay and they're raping little boys. Because you hear it on the news. You hear it everywhere. It's obvious. Now you're joining the priesthood because you too are part of it. Yeah? Study it. It's all about that. It really is true. And it's the thing of knowing is that because everything's done behind the scene and you're being lied to, how is it possible you can ever get to know anything? How is it possible? People have to confess. Yeah? They have to confess. We have to go, okay, here's the deal. The world reality states that we believe it's possible that the Catholic Church is an evil cult. And we'd like to test it out. We'd like to be able to go in and check your archives and see how much is involved with Satan. We'd like to read your scripts as to who you invoke your prayers to. And is Lucifer involved in this? And in what way are you involved with Satan? Because you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. Your loyalty, your false ideology, your sixth ray keeps you from helping me. I can't do this alone. I can't. It's possible. You have to come to consciousness. You must have consciousness. I have all the light in heaven, and I'm standing here on earth. If you connect with me and choose to connect with me, I will give that light to you. And you'll get it. You'll have a weaver, you'll do soul therapy, and I'll tell you, you need to let it all go, and let's start building monasteries, and let's start considering becoming a monk and nun, because what you're not doing this life, you're going to do in your next life, because you're aware of the fact you reincarnate, correct? As the teacher, these are my rules of understanding, that we have to close the door to the astral plane, which is your stupidity, your ignorance, your willingness to follow liars, and not discern or discriminate, and not do anything about their lies. And you can't, because they're done behind the scene without you knowing, and, so I have to raise the consciousness of law. I have to raise the consciousness of government. I have to raise the consciousness of doctors so that they realize that they're harming people. And they themselves shouldn't be smoking cigarettes. They shouldn't be in this lifestyle. They themselves should be heal thyself. And then learn how to heal other people. Because you learned how to do it naturally. And that's just normal Hippocratic oath. But every single thing has its process. It has its purpose. It's a new group of world servers. We all are a league to. We all are going into. Yeah? And it's about consciousness. Without consciousness, we don't become aware of the fact that we have a new world. And that we're going into a new world. And that a lot of what we're coming out of is lies. And it is so diluted and convoluted in the process of a lie, that it destroys the upbringing of children, the upbringing of humanity itself. Yeah? So the key is to be able to heal from this false messiah in 1666, Sai Baba in 1990 to 1999, yeah? Michael Jackson to the year 2000 or something like that. I think he died then. All these people, they come back. And when I'm incarnated, they come back in a way in which that's the day they're going to be judged. They're going to come back looking like Michael Jackson. They're going to come back in the form of Trump. They're going to come back in the form of Sai Baba, where you're a little curly-haired guy that's just so stupid and ridiculous. It's after a while, it'll be very easy to get everybody to realize he was a fake. Yeah? I bring everybody into incarnation. They are characters in God's plan, not theirs. Yeah? So in this life, in all lives from here on out, you're going to see an unveiling going on that you're not choosing. Yeah? And your consciousness will allow it to happen. Your lack of consciousness will keep it from happening. But your consciousness will allow it to happen. Because you have no idea that I'm healing you every day when you wake up. You're not the same person. You're not. You may allude to, oh, yeah, I still got the same name. I still got, but you're not the same person at all. Yeah? And you're changing in leaps and bounds. Yeah? And by the time the next 10 years comes by, you're going to look back and go, whoa, what happened over the last 10 years was dramatic. Yeah? I lost friends. I seen things happen. All things unexpected was the reality of this world. Yeah? But now we have the fastest trains, more trains than we ever thought we would have. We're going to have more electric cars. We have flying cars. All these things because people are free with a soul. Does that make sense? When your soul's been liquidated, used, and abused, then the majority of people will all become homeless. But that's not the case. We're twisting it right at the point of homelessness. And we're going to put trillions of dollars into it and turn that all around and make this a completely different scenario. And doing it through kindness, compassion, and justice. Which means that we're going to put good people, that, are good people in office. And bad people that have been lying and deceiving and doing all kinds of bad things, we're going to have people kind of, perfectly aligned to be the person who takes them down, like it's destiny. This whole thing is wired. It's not a machine, but it's wired. It's the Holy Spirit. And everybody's being moved in a very, very big way in order to take down the lunar lords and close the door and get rid of this false messiah here. Keeps coming back. He's incarnated in Nepal right now. This guy who used to be 1666, he's in Nepal. Yeah? He's thought to be the incarnation of Maitreya, a young boy, thought to be the little Buddha boy. But in reality, he kills people, beats people, rapes women, ties people up and chains them. And he's been found for that. And it's just like this guy in his past lives. He claims to be a monk, but he's married and he's got 2 kids. What? He claims he doesn't eat, but he sneaks out and eats every day. Claims he doesn't pee, but he pees 2 to 3 times a day. Yeah? He's a liar. He's a liar. And it's catching up with him. He's in the wrong place claiming to be me. He's in the wrong place. He went to the wrong house to claim to be Buddha Maitreya. Because everybody loves me in Nepal. I am the Buddha Maitreya in Nepal. And this guy, people just want to beat him up and kill him. You know, so it's not a good place to incarnate, not a good place to come out and externalize and think that he's going to pull it off. But he is a deluded knower. That's what a false prophet is. A deluded knower, a knower. They know so much. They get you to believe in them that they're the knower. Yeah. And then they changed the Bible, and they changed, just like this guy, he added 7 new Buddhas. He eliminated previous history of Buddha. All that, you know, just like, why not? You know, he's a liar, you know, and you're not going to figure it out because he's the only enlightened one. You know, he's a knower, and you're not a knower. So he's Buddha. Yeah, that's how it works. You know, so we've got enormous Dark Lodge groups of people that are manifested in doing what they're doing. Yeah, and we look at Trump, and you're going to see 20 good people that are right out of the Hitlerian period and right out of Mussolini period, reincarnated, and holding high positions of really bad evil status. And they're all being busted. They're all being busted. They can't even afford a car. Some of them, their wives are dying around them if they're not being sued for divorce. The wives that hold on to them die of cancer. Because it's so evil. Melania, you got to read into this lady. She's in survival mode. 100% in survival mode. And she's not going to survive. Her body's not going to make it. And it's just the way it is. Impurity is impurity. Judgment day is now. And we do not have much more time. Every single day, I put the heat on 1,000,000 times more, and God adds more to my workload. Every day. I mean, beyond your wildest. Personally, I'm getting way too overloaded in work. Yeah, way. But it's nothing compared to what's coming, you know? So I just got to take a deep breath and keep pushing through it. Because the load is the process of doubt. You know, there's blessings coming my way, but the evil says that's not a blessing. That's terrible. That you shouldn't want that. You shouldn't do that. No, you know that. You know that feeling. Yeah, you know that circumstance happens all the time. Multiply that by 1,000,000 in my case. Yeah, and I got to change finances, governments. I got to get people to legally put Trump in jail, stand by the process of putting these people behind bars, you know, holding them in faith. That's what I said about the process of faith and knowing is not knowing, it's faith. Instill faith into humanity, and they will do what is necessary because they can dispel the lie, the delusion. They can dispel it, and they can see that it's literally manifested as wrongness. And that wrongness is the harm in the world. And it takes away all possible, you know, anything from poverty to illness to disease to everything, our economy, the whole bit. It's all based on whether or not we are telling the truth. Like Biden came out, he took $3.5 billion, I think, out of the funds. I think it was 3.5, 7 billion, something like that, trillion. Out of the Afghan funds, yeah, and where we were at war and all this kind of stuff, and then all the money they grabbed, you know, got it out of the bank and held it because it was going to go to the Taliban. That's not good, yeah. And so we held it, and we're going to give back half of it to the people, yeah, and help them in their process, you know, in every way, education, all things, infrastructure, help, yeah, and the other half goes toward everybody that suffers from 9/11. people whose families lost loved ones, people who died after the collisions and crashes and pollution and everything that killed thousands and thousands and thousands of people afterwards. We have money to care for that, yeah, and help people with their hospitalizations, their homes, their life, so that they're not homeless. And I mean, everything right now, that kind of thing, taking money in that way, and not just going, okay, we're going to take it and we're going to build more, rocket ships and, missiles, and use that 7 trillion and maybe give 2 billion to society. And it's our society. Screw the Afghanis, And that's where we would be. That's where Trump would have been. That's where many people would have been. But this was a very kind, proper, correct thing, yeah? And it's not in a state of knowing, it's a state of faith. Are you doing the right thing? How do you know you're doing the right thing? It's a state of faith. State of faith. All this is hard, yeah? And you have to try, you have to do, you have to give, you have to share. And it really is not about knowing. It's about conscience and consciousness. And if you have enough consciousness, then you have enough higher mind that comes in with the consciousness that allows you to deal with what you're dealing with. You're in a superior state. You have circumstances, your luck. You look online, and all of a sudden you find something no one else can find. Because your consciousness does this. Your knowing keeps you from finding what it is you need to find. Your keys, your phone, and all that. Your knowing loses everything. Yeah? Because you don't know anything. And God will teach you this freaking lesson, and I would rather you don't have to learn it. Yeah? So if we are in the meditative state and we do the things that I'm talking about, where they said, don't fast, gorge, feast, don't have marriage and stay within union and be loving to each other, family and all. No. Let's have sex with the kids, and let's have sex with all the neighbors, and let's have an orgy of all kinds, and let's have it on a sabbatical night or in some kind of holy night, because that would be the best thing. And that's what they do in the Catholic Church, and that's what they did in the Jewish belief system. That's what happened. And that instills in the subconscious being of reincarnation. It instills in us. So that's what I'm cleaning out. So when I say, do your best to eat the meal that I'm talking about. Try and eat carnivore. Just try and eat it. And you'll find that you're doing something that comes from your consciousness, where one time, long ago, you obeyed the Lord, just like Adam and Eve. Just like Adam and Eve, because you're all children of Adam and Eve, and you all have the memory of being Adam and Eve. You're emanations. Does that make sense? There's nobody is in another boat. We're all in that one. And we're all reincarnated into that fact. That was the holy reality of the creation of Adam and Eve is something that is metaphysical. It's a manifestation. There is no navel for Adam. He is self-created by God. Just exactly how all avatars are manifested. So when you see Jesus, he was self-created, immaculately conceived. He had no father. And the mother situation was a surrogate. And it's necessary. But it only plays the surrogate role of allowing birth to take place inside your body. And when it comes out, it's free. It's now alive. It lives its life. It goes on. Unless you have some subconscious belief that that child came from you, and you forgot that it came from God, and somehow, does that make sense? And that's a sin. That's a big sin. And that happened in Jesus' life. Imagine how easy it is to happen in anybody else's life. How can you keep that kind of stuff from coming into you? So that's my job, is to be here to purify, stay in a state of incarnation. And by doing that, I elevate this process of your Messianic reality. You're looking for me. You know, you're looking for the incarnation of God. Yeah. But then you get fakes. And you get so upset, you become Muslims. I mean, that's horrendous. Yeah? Yeah? I mean, you're Jewish. Can you think about that? You know, go back. You know, here you are, Jewish, little curlies and all that kind of stuff, and you've already gone 40 years with this false prophet, taking you away from the book, taking you away from the ceremonies, taking you away from your eating ceremony, taking you away from your holy days, taking you away from all of that. And by the time you finally get to this point where the, Solomon king, says, I'm going to cut your freaking head off if you don't become a Muslim, you creature, because he was a creature, he was a demon, and the guy just said, you got to become Muslim or I'm going to kill your ass. That's all I can do. Because you're unworthy of life. Yeah? And that carried over into a process, where millions of people became Muslims. Yeah? And that's only because of a fanatic sixth ray, like a domino effect, a knee-jerk effect, an ideology effect, a loyalty effect. Yeah? And this is back in 1666. This is happening in 2016. The same thing happened. The same thing happened right here in America. A false prophet comes up, and he is literally all the things this guy says you should be able to do in your life. He does all those things. He does all those things. And you make him president. Why? Well, think about it. Yeah, it's not a knowing thing, but I'm telling you, you all reincarnate, and there's little chance you weren't the followers of Hitler's and Mussolini's and of the 5 dictators of your previous life, and little chance that you weren't the followers in the mass religious area as religious people that you are, that chance that you might have taken a Jewish reality in your life is really high. And falling into this kind of hell, real high. How about maybe you became a Catholic, fall into that hell? Well, now you're burning bones, cutting people's hands off, strangling people, and making them confess. Holy crap! And you wanted to be a monk, a nun, you wanted to what? And you get into that, and that's what you're led to do. Yeah? And you go into Buddhism, and they're cannibals. In many cases, they were cannibals. In Tibetan Buddhism, they were cannibals. In the Bon, they were cannibals. They ate human beings when they died so that they would have the spirit of that being come into their body. This happens in many countries. And that happened in Tibet, in the Bon. It was not uncommon. Yeah? So you've got lives. If you're spiritual people, and you all are, you're all looking for God. So you've got a 99% chance you've fallen into those conditions. And it's not your fault. It's the world you were born into. And your mother was a Jew. Or your father was a Tibetan. Whatever you are, you think you're from your parents. You think you're from the country that you're in. You know. You think you know. But you don't. Yeah? If you're fully self-aware, self-enlightened being, that comes at birth. You know that this isn't your parents. I was so freaked out when I was a kid, I called the police. When I was around 5 or 6 and said I was kidnapped. And I got in so much trouble. And I told all the people in my neighborhood my parents kidnapped me. And my brother got all freaked out. Why are you telling people this? That's crazy. You're my brother. You couldn't have been kidnapped. I said, yeah, I was. I was stolen. I'm not your brother. I'm not your brother, and that's not my father. And that's not my mom. I know you think that's your mom. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. But I know for a fact this is not my family. And I wish you'd let me go. And then the Tibetans come when I'm 9 and say, oh, we'd like to take them away, put them in monasteries because of the reincarnation of the Lord. And they go, no way, we need them around here, which isn't true. They were very, 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 very abusive, mean, drunk, smoking people, average people in the 1950s, Just imagine, being in that situation. And in my mind, my awareness was the fact that everything I'm teaching you now was on my awareness as a baby, as a child, And I'm telling you, this is going to be your awareness. When you come into your life, you're going to be rebellious. Yeah? You're going to stand up for yourself. You're going to focus on self-actualization and self-realization. You're going to think you're being selfish and very special. People will go, well, you think you're special. You are special. You're incredibly special. You just need to relax and be your true self. And there's that consciousness inside of you is what draws that out. Your consciousness. And you have to have consciousness, or you will not consciously put any effort toward awakening your soul. Does that make sense? All right, great. Let's pray. We're going to do a soul, I walk on earth. And do that. And we'll do the bells later. So all these invocations are to help you. In reality, you all reincarnate and you all know nothing. Yeah? And you're all confused. Yeah? And your parents are confused. Yeah? And everybody around you is confused. Yeah? Yeah? Because we're not where we're supposed to be. Yeah? And that's confusing. But this invocation helps to settle that, bring you to the center, where I'm at. Takes you to the center, yeah? And you're able to fight off the wearing ways, the pairs of opposites, the dualities, yeah? The things that come at you that you can't figure out. You don't know why you do it. You don't know, because it's subconscious. They affect your triggering mechanism, yeah? But when I do what I do, I go deep. And I have spent more time with all of you than any other being on this planet. Whether they be false prophets or your mom and dad or your teachers or your belief systems. They last short periods of time. But I keep reincarnating and I am omnipresent and I'm standing next to every living human being. And if you have a soul, you are in communication with me. So everybody knows me. Everybody is in contact with me. There's no running away. There's no way you can not have it happen. Yeah? Yeah? It is a process that exists. And we're coming to the age that this process becomes externalized. Yeah? And that's what these invocations are for. So when you listen to the invocations, you're not making any agreements. Yeah? Your consciousness is being awakened. That's it. Just your consciousness. The fact that I'm saying I invoke the power, the love, the wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad. Your consciousness knows that when you die and when you are born and when you live your life, your mind is in the ashram. Your mind is with the Lord. That's where your faith is at. That's where God's at. Yeah? It's not in you. It's in the ashram. It's in your soul. And it's in the power of the Lord. Yeah? So when we do this invocation, it aligns you to being guided. Yeah? Because you don't know that you can be guided. Even though you think you know, therefore you don't need any guidance. Yeah? But in reality, you're lost. Yeah? So you need all the guidance you can possibly get. So to guide me into the right activity, the plan to clarify and stimulate my mind, yeah? All of that is to help you receive the light. Receive the Lord who stands right next to you. There's but a foot between me and you. There's not more than a foot. Yeah? You can turn this way, you can turn that way, I will be there. Yeah? You can look up, I'm looking down at you. Yeah? No matter what way you go at, I'm omnipresent. I'm constantly present within a foot of your being. Yeah? That's if you have a soul. If you don't have a soul, your impurities erase that being. No existing being there. No Lord, no nothing. Yeah? Because it's a law. I cannot break a law forcing myself into your life. I can only come because your soul is my soul. And for you to continue your development with your soul, it requires me, so I am in service to do so. It's a service. I don't have control over it. And I don't have control over not being next to you. I don't. Yeah? It's completely magnetic reality. It's a completely esoteric reality. I have no will over that process. My will is that I try and work hard. I work real hard. I work hard. I'm consistent. If it wasn't for Tara, I wouldn't be sleeping because I can work longer hours, But because of my lovely wife, she's given me a clarity over the fact that it would allow me to live longer, healthier, and happier if I did take these hours and get into that regulated space. So we're doing that. I've done that. Yeah. And that helps a lot. Yeah. But in my nature, I'm called 24/7. Yeah. So it's almost impossible unless, since I'm with Tara, I'm also in service to Tara. So if she has right mind, higher mind, clear, we are always, everybody is in a relationship. Does that make sense? And it's through relationship that we learn to change. Maybe I would go a certain way, but through a relationship I would learn maybe, I'd like to go this way. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's what the invocation is for, is to help you dispel certain elemental aspects of yourself and thinking in your subconscious mind, where in reality all these things that are being invoked is to dispel the influences that are causing you a lack of ability to be in this state, being with God and having God in the world and watching the world be in a place to where it's heavenly. People are healing. People are awakening. Children are coming that are very healthy and wise. Yeah? Rather than another Michael Jackson that's going to rip you off and lie to you and do a moonwalk and, try and make you feel, oh, he's so fantastic. He's just covering up. I am doing my best to make sure you do not have those circumstances again. Yeah? Because you're not, it's too much. The first two initiations, it's too much, for you to have to go through that and make it to the other side. They'll make you fall. They will fall out of grace. They are not in grace at all. And due to your lack of discernment and their lies, you will never grow into grace because you're seeing devils stand before you lying and you can't discern them. And you're attracted to them. That's the worst part of it. You start marrying these people. You start getting attracted to them. Holy cripe. So the invocation, evocation is to step right into your consciousness. Because there's times when you yourself lived in an ashram. You yourself spent time with me. A whole life maybe. And if I've had one life with you, it is forever. You will never forget me. You'll never forget my voice. You'll never forget my mannerisms. You'll never forget anything about me. You'll never meet anybody like me again. And you will always want to meet me again. Always. Yeah? And that's just the way it is. And you're looking for me in everybody you meet. Yeah? And they're not there. Only a little, of love is there. But nothing compared to the real thing. Because this isn't aspects. This isn't attributes like in everybody's case. Mine is a whole reality that manifests as the Lord. And you meet people and they call themselves the Lord, and you can't interpret the Lord anymore. You can't interpret it. There's only one Lord, people. There's not Lord Mottenbow. There's not Lord Ja 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 Boom Boom Bang Bang. You know, there are none. You know, there's only the Lord. And there is the Most High God. Not a few demigods and Lilith and Lucifer, and a few other people, Zeus, like our president. Yeah. All those things are the processes of our past lives that we've been introduced to by false prophets. Yeah. And we bought into it. Yeah. And just this simple invocation here that I laid out is one that will instill in a person, and all the pujas and everything, but instills an area of your consciousness that reaches three chakras that can't be touched by a human being. 3 chakras. Because in order for them to get that way, you had to cohabitate with a demon at some point in time. You had to have a personal relationship, a love relationship, a committed relationship, an obligated relationship with a person who was a demon. And that's not hard to do. That's not hard at all. I mean, how many people dated Jeffrey Dahmer before we found out who he was? There's so much in the process of what impurities come into you. There are so many women out there that just go have sex with any guy just simply because they need to have sex. But every time that energy is expressed back and forth, it takes lifetimes to release that energy. Lifetimes. And you may think, oh, this is a good guy. But that very person will keep you from the Lord. Yeah? Because we're not here to live in that level of our being. We're here to go up into the level of the Lord in service. And that means, well, we got to give up a lot of things like perversions and abusive sexual desires and, things that can get me killed, lower my discernment levels, getting in cars with strangers, things like that. That's where people are at. And that's why people die. That's why people are in those circumstances, because we think people are not the way they are. And people are behaving this way that I just spoke of. And you don't think they are doing that. And they are. And that's affecting us all. So we need this. Yeah. It's not an agreement. It's not a commitment. It's not like, oh, I agree, I will enter a monastery, and all that. No, it's just opening up your consciousness so that your consciousness would take a connection with the teacher. And these words are things we talk about while we're in the monastery. And you could be in a monastery a whole lifetime, and all of this would be everything you would talk about. Oh my God, I've had so many changes, normal flow of energy in my body and the etheric field, oh my God, I'm feeling it every day. It's so intense. And the transformation and transmutation of my feelings. I wanted to kill myself in the past. And clarity of my stimulation of my mind where I couldn't even do anything, and my mind was gone and it was diluted and angry and all these kind of things were festering inside me. Yeah, those are realities in people's lives. And every single one of these things are to heal those things. Yeah, it's not a little invocation. Yeah, I'm not just going on and on and on trying to explain this invocation. I'm trying to help you understand that what I do is masterful. Yeah, really, really, really masterful. And a little thing like this, a little invocation that has just lines on it. Each one of those lines could save your soul, could save your life forever. But you get all of it. All of it. All the way to, all in the name of my Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Yeah? You get all of that. You're healing. You're in an ashram. All of that is part of what your consciousness is seeking. That's the only thing it's seeking. It would love some bread, it would love some butter, it would love to eat. All that. It comes with life in a monastery. You can imagine how good you eat in my monastery. Yeah? You eat really good because there's consciousness. I care whether or not you're okay. I care whether or not you eat white, And I'll tell you stuff that you'll never want to hear, not because I want you to love me, because I don't care about that. I care about you. So I will say things that will freak your ass out and probably get you pissed off at me. There's no way I'm going to sit around and eat a 16-ounce steak first thing in the morning. There's no way I'm going to do that. Well, I'm asking you to. So if you would, please, and sooner or later, it comes to happen. But most of the time, everybody makes an omelet, throws in some bacon. I got my meat. I got my eggs. I did my job. But that's not the case, people. I'm trying to help, and we need to get to a very low amount of food that we're eating. And if we eat red meat and we have broth and we have an egg, because the yolk that's in it is so good for us, and we have that as our sustainable meal, that broth, meat, egg, that's it, and have enough of that to sustain you, to make you feel that you ate enough. Not more than that, just enough for that, and enough fat in it to give you that healthy feeling. You'd never imagine the outcome of your soul that will come from that, from eating things that are meant for you to eat. But you literally have to give up all the other things that you think you need to eat in order to experience the benefit. You're doing all the right things, but you want to experience the benefit. So down the line, I say, okay, not now, but later, you're going to need to fast. And, being hungry is hard enough, let alone fasting. But it's a matter of time. It's not about you got to do this or you're not a good person. It's about the fact you're going to do this. You're going to do this. Yeah? Does that make sense? Because this is the person you are. So in my mind, I'm not telling you something you don't want to do. I'm telling you something you do. You do. Except that your consciousness is unaware of it. My consciousness is aware of it. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah? And that's the same with this. Everything that I say on this is what you do. Even though you're not, in the truth, it is what you do. Yeah? Okay. So, repeat after me. Okay. I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad. To guide me into the right activity in the plan. To clarify and stimulate my mind. To transform and transmute my feelings and emotions. To energize and vitalize and heal my physical and etheric body. So there is a normal flow of energy in my physical and etheric body. To this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the One. All in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
messenger of light. I am a pilgrim on the way of love. I do not walk alone, but I know myself as one with all great souls, and one with them in service. Their strength is mine. This strength I claim. My strength is theirs, and this I freely give. A soul, I walk on earth. I represent the One. God moves the world. The past has gone. I am that past. It makes me what I am. The future comes. I also am the coming destiny, and therefore I am that. The present flows from out the past. The future colors that which is. I make the future also by my present knowledge of the past and the beauty of the present. And therefore I am that I am.
Take a deep breath. Within the circle of the will of God I stand. Without the radius of the world of glamour I take my place. And there I stand. Before the open door that just reveals a different lighted way, I take my stand. Before the presence, I will take my place, and there will firmly stand. And stand I see.
Love is the incentive of our aspiration on the path. Love is the substance of our living in the world. Love is the light and the light of freedom from all creatures. Love pulses through the universe in a divine rhythm. Love is the consciousness of God. May the holy ones whose disciple I am show me the light I seek. May all mankind, may all humanity of all knowledge, may all light on earth make manifest the soul in all things, all life. I invoke the radiant golden sun to manifest the thread of the soul into the kingdoms of the elementals, into the kingdoms of the vegetables, the animals, into the astral plane. I invoke all humanity the will of God as the soul. I stand before the judgment seat of my soul. I am that soul. All love and light am I. I serve the world and lose myself in service. This is my life, and this is the way that I will tread until the day be with us all. Consciousness of humanity, the family of humanity, to bring forth points of energy within themselves, inaugurating certain new techniques in work and in modes of communication. I invoke the group of telepathic communicators. I invoke the group of trained observers. I invoke the group of magnetic healers. I invoke the group of the educators of this new age. I invoke the group of political organizers. I invoke the group of the workers in the field of religion. I invoke the group of scientific servers. I invoke the group of psychologists. I invoke the group of financiers and economists. I invoke all creative workers as the new group. I invoke the externalization of the inner existing
Okay, open your eyes. Have a nice nap. All right, so the process of this is transmission. It's not in the same teaching as they say in Tibetan Buddhism transmission. It's similar. But they also say guru worship, and then they include every single person that is a lama can be a guru, you know, and that doesn't apply to reality. Yeah. What applies to reality is that every single person is a disciple to the Lord. And that we have many Weishors, many friends, many other monks and nuns, Sangha, who are also in the same effort. Yeah. But the goal is to seek, find, and attain true guru relationship. Yeah. But in this world, you know, you have a really big chance of finding the wrong person. So I'm like 70 years old, and I've held back by taking out most of the people that you would be attracted to that are false messiahs, false prophets, and things like that. I got rid of them. And now I'm left, you know, and there's only just a few left, you know, so I'm still cleaning clock, and I'm ready to come out. But I'm in process where I am going to, service-wise, you know, I'm going to be adding on a great deal more, you know, and it's when you're dealing with psychic energy and you're dealing with a lot of stuff that goes into my heart and has to be transmuted through my chakras, the darker period of time, that's very difficult. It's very difficult because there's really no sangha of consciousness yet. Yeah. And when consciousness begins, I'm free. My vitality remains at a very high pace. And, you know, there's a lot of protective energetic field around me that has to do with Sangha. Sangha protects the guru. That's the purpose of it. It's not to be the purpose to follow or do that kind of thing, but we are one. The Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha is a group, you know? And if we are applying this in the proper way, and you really do apply yourself, it cleans the shadow, it cleans the darkness, it cleans the cloud. And it allows the influence of things that are harboring against the whole of humanity, even in small numbers of people who are choosing to be in the Sangha, choosing to buy tools, choosing to get pyramids, choosing to meditate, choosing to experience the fact that I'm Jesus the Christ, and not just Buddha Maitreya, you know, and that it's not shocking a person. It makes it even easier, yeah. As that comes to play, it's because of your faith rather than your knowing, yeah. You're gaining wisdom, and you gain that by purity that comes from my wisdom. That's light that comes transmitting out of me, and it goes into you, and you become brighter, smarter, clearer. Your mind can remember more than it used to, yeah? Your ability to discern people and be able to understand things is better than it used to be, yeah? Not being afraid of things that you might feel is too overwhelming for you, too technical, too not your thing. We're going to find out everything's your thing, you know, and you got to get rid of that part, you know, because you're not going to make it through life very happily if you're not enjoying everything. Yeah. So this is the process. Transmission makes that possible for you to appreciate the gifts that I'm handing out to this world, you know, and not be overwhelmed by it. Not be like most people who are sitting there going, technology, advancements, it scares me, I don't like it, I don't want it. You know, okay, great, you know, see you in the grave. You know, it's just the way it is. People die, and so do those thoughts. So does that energy, yeah? And then I reincarnate people, and I bless and love people beyond your wildest imagination. And I give them better abilities, better beauty, better orientation toward their true self in their next incarnation. Yeah, and it has nothing to do with the enormous amount of energy they put into it. It's just that that's what I'm doing right now. I am encircling the human aura. The human aura. And seeing it as a collective of only two. Only two auras. And you can't mess me up. You can't say, oh no, we got LGBT. Oh no, I'm gay. Oh no, I don't like that. Hey, sorry. Where I come from, you don't even exist. That whole thought form doesn't even exist. I'm going to bless you. What you want is for me not to bless you. You want to do what this Antichrist did. Do all the things I said you shouldn't do. To test me. See whether or not God's going to hit you with a bolt of lightning. Or you're going to have a worse life than most people. And you look around and you go, oh, I see a lot of gay people didn't die, and a lot of gay people are very rich, as though you're getting away with it. And it's not happening in that way. People themselves, all people, will be manifested through this, but they're only going to be healed as boys and girls, as male and female. That's it. There will be no alterations to the creation, to the genes, to the genetic pool, or to gender. We have two genders. Yeah. We have cats, we have dogs, yeah. We have elephants, we have horses, And it is that way. It stays that way. We have boys, we have girls, and those are humans. And we have animals, and those are male and female. Yeah. We're all in the same boat. Yeah. And if we want to get closer to God, being humans, we have to realize that God comes in our likeness, and we are in God's likeness. Therefore, we are the student to God. And if we're supposed to know what we're supposed to be doing, that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be asking. We're supposed to be changing. We're supposed to be students. Yeah? And not of ourselves. Not prideful, not go to some university and think we've won it. No, unless we got it from the Lord, we're not really sure. Yeah, does that make sense? So it's really, really, really clear in the world that the Lord is the Lord and that there's not other lords, and that the process of love is real. The real reality of love is that it's wisdom, and the intellectual aspect that we have to grow with, to become wise with, we get that through the transmission of the love that comes with wisdom. And it wakes us up consciously to our previous wisdom, our previous understanding. We built these pyramids. You're so far from that. Yeah? I'm not. Yeah? So with my transmission, you're on your way. Yeah? And you're all going to be really happy again. Because you'll find yourself. You'll find your purpose in life. And everything to do with God has to do with purpose in life. Homelessness is not a showing of purpose in life. So I eradicate it immediately. I'll run right out and I will pay for it to get it done. Yeah? Yeah? Because it's not a part of life. Homelessness is not an existing reality of earth. Yeah? It is a corruption. It's an instilling, and it can be taken care of because it's a small portion of the evil of humanity. And if you take care of just that part, you'll take care of all of it. Just that part. You don't have to think about all the rest. You just have to take care of homelessness. And that's it. All right. Enjoy your nights. Thank you very much.